Hey there, caregivers. How's it going? So today I wanted to touch on the topic of navigating the scenarios of placing your loved one in a facility. This is extremely difficult and it's extremely common. It comes up a lot. Maybe you've been here, maybe you haven't, maybe you're somewhere in between or thinking about it. Go ahead and let us know in the comments and we will get into this. So over the years, I've had several families ask me what they should do. They call me and they're like, is it time? How do I know? Or they've placed their loved one on a wait list, a bed becomes available. They're like, call me up. They're like, I just got the call. There's a bed available. What do you think? And I'm like, well, I'm extremely honored that you value my opinion. I also, this is a big weight. This is a big deal. This is a huge, huge thing, right? So every situation is different. Every caregiving situation is different. We know this. And every family dynamic is different. So it's very difficult. Some families know that placement is in their future. Some families are just like, they've made a vow, they're dead against it, it's not gonna happen, they're not going to a facility, or they made a promise to their loved one that they wouldn't put them in a facility. And some families are just taking things day by day, right? So they're just like, one day at a time. That's all I can do, okay? So what I'm gonna share with you is a superficial, clinical, meaning like we're removing the emotion, because this is very emotional. We're gonna remove that, and it's something that I created to kind of help families have a bird's eye view, take an inventory when it comes to this very difficult subject. So before we get into that, I do want to introduce myself, and I am going to go ahead, I'm working off my desktop here. I'm going to pop over to our group and share the link there as well. So we're on our page, also have a group. I'm going to invite some folks to join us. So my name is Bethany, and I have been a caregiver now for the past 20 years, family and professional caregiver. I also am the creator of the Caregiver Tribe, where we recognize all caregivers, family and professional ones. And my intention here is really just to provide space, connection, and even deeper inside of the Facebook group, which is caregiver support, connection, tips, and resources. So please join us inside there. I'll make sure I put a link in the comments when we're done. All right, so let's get into the 3 S's. There's 3 S's that you should remember when you're starting to have these conversations or these thoughts regarding if it's time for your loved one to go into a facility. And that could be any facility. That could be residential care, assisted living, it could be a nursing home, whatever it may be. This is just kind of like a little guide to help you there. So let's say this is what happens oftentimes within my home care agency. I'll have a family call me. We've been helping them, keeping their loved one at home as a team approach, right? The family doing care and us going in and doing care, and they'll call and say, okay, I got a bed. They called, there's a bed available. What should I do? Is it time? They'll call me, and I'm like, all right, let's go to the 3 S's. Let's talk it out. So here's the 3 S's, all right? Are you ready? Maybe you want to write it down. So the first thing that I'll ask is, let's talk about supervision. That's S number 1. And to dive deeper on supervision, it's how much is your loved one needing supervision? How many hours out of a 24-hour day do they need supervision? Okay, so we answer that. And then how many hours can they be alone? And they may say, well, when they're sleeping, they don't need supervision because, maybe for whatever reason they don't get up in the night to use the bathroom, or maybe when they're taking a nap in the afternoon or they're reading their morning paper, they don't need supervision. So you start to like do an inventory of blocks of time that they don't need supervision. All right. And then we want to know too, how much time are they spending alone? Are they only getting care? Let me just say it like this. Are they only receiving care and supervision combined a total of 6 hours a day, when really when we look at this, it should be more like 15 or 16 hours a day? All right. So we're trying to look at what they're really needing, what they're getting, and just kind of weigh that out with the supervision, okay? The second S that I asked them to look at is socialization. So this is a human need for most folks. I know some folks don't need it, but as much. But we want to look at their socialization. Are people coming to visit them in the home? Friends, family, neighbors? Are they getting out into the community and having some form of socialization? Are those needs being met, or are they truly lonely and could maybe even benefit? I'm a huge proponent of home care, but I do understand and respect when a facility is needed. So don't, there's pros and cons to everything, right? Would they benefit from a facility environment to meet that socialization need? Okay, so that's the question. Are their socialization needs being met? I actually know of a woman who chose to go into an assisted living. She needed the support. She just chose that because she really, really enjoys being around a lot of people. And for her, the assisted living fit that bill. And so she was part of making that choice within her care plan. So that was really a good thing. All right, so you want to look at that. The last thing we want to look at is safety. And so this is and I'll ask, is the home safe? Okay? Is the home needing any repairs? Is it structurally okay? We'll talk about that. We will talk about, are their care needs being met? Right? Again, back to kind of that supervision situation, but more along the lines of the care. So let's say there is 6 hours a day that somebody is in the home, and of that 6 hours, that's when they're only getting their care. So that means that maybe in the evenings, they're having to get their meals on their own, or they're having to do their nighttime kind of care, making sure they are all set up for evening with everything that they need in regards to toileting, okay? Are all those needs being met, or are they struggling, and are they just staying in? I'm just going to be like super honest here because I don't know how else to do it. Like, I don't know how, I just got to be direct. Are they staying in their depends? Like when the caregiver gets there the next morning, are they in their depends from the day before, and it's, not an ideal situation, right? These are things we need to look at, take an inventory of. And sometimes with the toileting, there can be some little tweaking and troubleshooting. So I wouldn't say, oh gosh, just that. None of these alone is a reason for you to start like leaning towards a facility. And we'll touch on that, what this all means once we gather this information at the end. But not one single thing is a reason to do that. Okay, so are they wandering? Are they a danger to themselves? Are they wandering and trying to get out of the home at night? Or are they going down in the basement and they shouldn't be, even though you've put locks on it and they figured that out, right? So safety, we're really talking about safety in the home here. I had a client who lived all alone, and he lived on a lake, and he would get very, very confused at night. And I would get very, very concerned at night that, he would end up wandering and go out to the lake. I mean, that was a huge safety thing for me. and expressed multiple times. And we did navigate some things and troubleshoot around that with the family and got it to work. But these are things to consider. Are they combative? Okay, so we talked about, are they endangering themselves or are they endangering others, right? Are they combative? And then I'll also try to have the conversation too about the caregiver, right? The family caregiver, the one who is in charge of all of this, the one who is like the primary caregiver, okay? Let's talk about safety with the primary caregiver. Are your needs being met? How's your mental health? How's your emotional well-being? Because that is a factor too, right? So if some of that is going on and it's like a lot of frustration, a lot of stress, a lot of, being impatient or being angry and all that stuff is kind of showing up, which I've seen it, and I get it. I totally respect and get it. Then we have to consider that as part of this inventory, because that's not good either, right? That's not a good situation either. And inside the group that I have, the Caregiver Support Connection Tips and Resources, I share with you different ways to work around caregiver stress. I also talk about that in my mini course, which is Common Centered Caregiver course. And that's all, it's just dedicated to caregivers reducing stress. It's really cool, really simple, and helps you to dial that down. So that is the last thing inside of safety, is thinking about the primary caregiver, right? Because that's also to be considered. So this isn't a quiz. This isn't like, okay, if you said yes to 2 things or 3 things, kind of lit up, or you starred, then you go this way or you go that way. No, it's not a quiz. It's designed to help you answer questions and help guide you to the answer. It's kind of like this big, heavy, difficult thing, and what are some ways that I can just step back and look at this in a way that kind of clinically makes sense. So again, those 3 S's to look at, and you can make sure that you get all the little pieces to it, but it's supervision, socialization, and safety. So that's what we want to be looking at. And I hope that helps somebody and gives them just a tiny bit even of clarity. It's not the answer, because this is very complex and every situation is different. There's no 2 caregiving situations alike. So I hope it gives a little clarity though to you and helps you. All right, take care.